Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are doing a full autopsy on what is arguably the most universally despised piece of software in PC gaming history. We're going to dig into exactly how the company behind the wildly successful Xbox Live network managed to get PC gaming so incredibly, fundamentally wrong.
Look, if you were playing PC games back in the late 2000s, you already know the pain. We're going to channel the absolute frustration of every single PC gamer who had to endure Microsoft's so-called Live Anywhere initiative. Its entire legacy basically boils down to a holy trinity of terrible user experiences, overpriced subscriptions that literally nobody asked for, incredibly buggy software that actively fought against you, and, of course, the ultimate gamer nightmare, corrupted save files.
But to really grasp how we ended up with this massive digital disaster, we have to rewind a bit. Think back to 2006. Microsoft was practically untouchable in the console space. They had totally beaten Nintendo and Sony to the next-gen market with the Xbox 360, they had virtually zero competition in the living room, and Xbox Live was the undisputed gold standard for online gaming, sitting at over 3 million active subscribers. But, they weren't satisfied with just the living room. They wanted the PC ecosystem too.
And they moved dangerously fast to capitalize on all that momentum. Summer of 2006, the Xbox 360 hits 5 million units sold. Riding that massive high, Bill Gates gets up at E3 and announces the Live Anywhere initiative. Fast forward to March 2007, it gets rebranded to Games for Windows Live, and a mere 2 months later, the service actually launches. It was a hugely ambitious pivot straight into the heart of PC gaming, done in record time.
Now on paper, this concept sounded like a gamer's absolute dream. Live Anywhere was supposed to be the ultimate bridge. It promised to take your whole gaming life, your achievements, your friends lists, your downloads, and completely unify them across your console, your computer, and even your Windows phone. But the real game changer, the massive selling point, was cross-platform play. The promise that you could sit at your PC and seamlessly play directly against your friends sitting on their couch playing on an Xbox 360.
So the hype was real, but when launch day hit, that dream completely slammed into reality. And honestly, it felt like a direct insult to the PC community. Microsoft essentially copy-pasted their console business models straight over to the PC without changing a single thing. And that instantly became this massive flashpoint. It was pure corporate greed colliding head-on with a community that was used to a radically different standard.
They just fundamentally misunderstood the PC ecosystem, completely misread the room. On consoles, sure, gamers gladly dropped $49.99 a year for an Xbox Live Gold membership. That was just the cost of doing business. But in the PC world, matchmaking, dedicated servers, online play, we'd had all of that completely for free for years. Suddenly, Microsoft swoops in and tries to lock those exact same historically free features behind a $50 annual paywall. They were basically holding your PC games for ransom.
And let's just say you were one of the rare few who actually swallowed your pride and paid that $50 ransom. What did you get? The software support at launch was a complete joke. Games for Windows Live launched with a grand total of 2 titles. Yep, 2. First up was Halo 2, which was already considered a pretty mediocre PC port. And the craziest part, despite all the E3 hype, Halo 2 didn't even support crossplay. The second game was Shadowrun. Now that one did support crossplay, but everyone criticized it as an incredibly shallow experience that in absolutely no way justified its $50 retail price tag.
And here is the truly staggering part. Cross-platform play was the massive shiny hook they used to justify this whole service, right? Well, throughout its entire miserable lifespan, guess how many games ever actually supported it? 5. Literally just 5 games. The gap between their E3 promises and the actual product was just unbelievable.
Okay, but let's ignore the insulting pricing and the totally empty game library for a second. What was it actually like to use the software on, say, a Tuesday night when you just wanted to chill and play a game? Well, it was an exercise in pure exasperation. It wasn't just bad, it was this buggy, clunky nightmare that actively got in the way of you trying to have fun.
To really get why PC gamers violently rejected this, look at what we already had. Look at Steam. Even back then, Steam was a smooth, standalone application. You had a central hub, a dedicated friends list, an overlay built specifically for a mouse and keyboard. Then you had Games for Windows Live. It wasn't even a standalone app. It was this massively clunky UI, obviously designed for an Xbox controller, and they just awkwardly shoved it directly inside the game itself. It behaved like this weird parasitic growth covering your screen, completely alien to how anyone on a PC actually navigated software.
And the bugs? Man, the bugs made you feel like Microsoft was actively punishing you. Because your PC and your Xbox shared a single gamer tag, you couldn't be logged into both at the same time.
Imagine this. You're deep into an intense PC gaming session, and a family member in the living room turns on the Xbox 360 just to watch a movie. Bam! You are instantly and ruthlessly kicked right out of your PC game. No warning, you're just done. Even worse, if Games for Windows Live ever lost its server connection, which happened all the time, it permanently corrupted your save files. Dozens of hours of progress, just poof, gone. Oh, and as a final insult, in 2010, they updated their voice codec for 360 games, which entirely broke the cross-platform voice chat they had spent years advertising.
When you look back at the reviews and critical reception from that era, this single word from IGN's Joe Stiggy West just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures the collective, exhausting sigh of the entire PC gaming community. If you had to distill the entire experience of dealing with the crashes, the controller UI, and the corrupted saves into one single sound, is exactly it.
Now, eventually, Microsoft did realize the massive mistake of charging for the service, so they made it free. But, the reputational damage was already terminal. You'd think that Microsoft formally abandoning the project would bring a huge wave of relief to gamers. Finally, it's over, right? Actually, scratch that. The nightmare wasn't over at all. It became this undead legacy.
The platform didn't just stop, it had this incredibly slow, agonizing death. After the voice chat broke in 2010, everyone kind of knew the writing was on the wall. By September 2011, Microsoft announces they're integrating Xbox Live into Windows 8, which basically signaled to the whole industry that Games for Windows Live was being left out in the cold. Finally, in 2014, the service was officially discontinued, and they pulled the plug on the servers.
But here's the kicker. Pulling that plug triggered a massive, massive headache. Even from the grave, this software was still ruining people's weekends. See, Games for Windows Live was so deeply baked into the code of the games that used it that when Microsoft killed the servers, those games couldn't phone home. So what happened? Countless legacy titles that people had rightfully purchased on platforms like Steam suddenly became totally unplayable. It was literally a dead digital barricade. To fix it, game developers had to spend their own time and money going back into their old code to manually patch the dead software out just so paying customers could launch their games. It's a pretty terrifying lesson in what happens when we don't actually own our digital media, isn't it?
And if you want to know just how incredibly stubborn this digital parasite was, consider this year, 2021. 7 full years after the platform was officially discontinued by Microsoft, Bethesda was literally still issuing updates to rip this dead software out of the Steam version of Fallout 3. Over a decade after the service peaked, developers were still performing digital exorcisms just to get rid of it.
Now, obviously, Microsoft figured things out eventually. Today, they've got the much smoother Xbox app on PC, finally delivering that seamless ecosystem they dreamed about way back in 2006. But the rocky, frustrating, tear-your-hair-out history of Games for Windows Live is always going to be remembered as an absolute masterclass in how not to treat PC gamers. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this. In an era where literally everything requires a constant online connection, are we setting ourselves up for another digital dark age? And what spectacular corporate tech failure should we explore next? Let me know, because learning from these absolute disasters is exactly how we demand better. Keep learning.